Today, let's take some time to dedicate and talk about a lot of NFL news that has been swirling around these past couple of weeks, from players staying with their former teams to players requesting trades and players getting cut. We got a lot of news to talk about today for this episode of the Shumake Take. Before we get into it, all right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. It's been a while since I've done a numbered traditional podcast episode working with predictions versus reality so much, but this is going to be officially episode number 38 of the show. Hope you guys are having a great day. Before we get into it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe button if you're new around here on the channel, and if you like the content, it does a lot to help me out, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would. Helps the channel grow way more, and that way I continue spreading my football passion to way more people. Anyways, before we start, I do want a little bit of housekeeping because I haven't had a chance to really sit down and talk to you guys in quite some time. So obviously, I've been doing a lot of predictions versus reality, which is taking, the forefront of my channel at the moment, working on those videos. And it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun doing that. And I also did the Shumake Take Awards, which if you haven't checked that out, I would highly recommend go check it. I know it's outdated, but I did put a lot of time and effort into the video. It's one of my biggest videos. It is the biggest video I've ever made in terms of content and editing. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys would go mind check that out. Just to check it out a little bit, because I had a couple fun parts in there, especially at the second half. You guys are really going to like what I did there. Anyways, so with all of this news, we're going to talk about the news. Talk about the news. Anyways, before we begin, I just want to say that there's 5 things that happened last week that I'm going to recap and talk about first, and then we'll talk about some of the transactions that have happened over the course of today as I'm recording this video, all the most recent news to get you guys caught up. More than likely, there's going to be more news dropping as I'm recording this video and as it edits and uploads, so we're going to have a lot to talk about these next few weeks as free agency opens and begins doing its real thing. So let's recap what happened last week real quick, first and foremost. The big thing that happened last week was Matthew Stafford and his entire saga with him potentially being traded. Well, ultimately that doesn't happen. Matthew Stafford is going to stay with the Rams, and they're working to finalize a new extension to keep him there for the rest of his career, I'm assuming. I think this is the right move for Matthew Stafford so he stays at a contending team, and this is good for the Rams so they don't have to jump to a different quarterback super early and do something rash or not, make the wrong move, getting rid of Stafford. Both parties, I think it's both that they stay here, and a lot of people were like, oh, where could he go? He's going to go to the Raiders. Tom Brady's courting him, which, by the way, I have no idea how that's not tampering. And then the Jordan Schultz situation with Ian Rappaport, that's just crazy to me. But that's not the point of what we're talking about. Back to Matthew Stafford. It was clear to me, at least, that Matthew Stafford wasn't going anywhere. This reminds me exactly of the Lamar Jackson situation a couple of years ago, where they said, oh, if you want to go get a deal, if you think you're worth more than what we're paying you, go ahead and seek a trade. And so that's what happened. They went to go seek a trade, and of course, the Ravens knew that the offer that they were giving was fair, and they were gonna get Lamar Jackson back anyways. They were just doing that to let him say, okay, if you think you can find a new deal, go right ahead and do right by you. And guess what? Matthew Stafford never left. I had no intention on him leaving. I didn't think he was going to leave. So he's with the Rams. This stays. It works out for both parties. And that whole situation has been resolved. The next thing really quick, Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Chiefs, said he's going to stay and play for another year. So now you have him along with Noah Gray and everything else on that offense with Patrick Mahomes. I think it's fine if Kelce stays. I don't expect him to be a big contributor in 2025 if I'm being 100% honest with you. But if he thinks he can still play, by all means, I'm rooting for him to succeed. Let him go play and let him go have fun. The next thing, out of the Tennessee Titans, edge rusher Harold Landry was given permission to seek a trade. He is due a whole bunch of money. He's due like $20+ million, and I guess the Titans don't want to pay it. So they're going to Harold Landry's going to look and see if he can find a trade partner so someone can take on that money so he can get his money. This is the same thing as Lamar Jackson and Matthew Stafford. I don't think Harold Landry is going anywhere. I don't think anybody's willing to take on $24 million of his contract with the cap hit. And also, Harold Landry is just, where he's at in his career, he's just not that good of an edge rusher, if I'm being honest. He's never been that good. He's been solid, but never a great pass rusher, even in 2021. The thing is, Harold Landry, he's very overrated. You look at it like his pass rush win rate and, pressure rate. You look at the elite and, you look at the metrics, the advanced metrics that really help you narrow down if a pass rusher is good or not. His numbers are at the bottom of the NFL. He's a what you call an effort rusher, right? He gets his sacks off of cleaning up after a play takes too long or the quarterback's running around. He does not win one-on-one matchups. He doesn't. He's never been able to, even when he was back in Boston College. He couldn't. That's not his game. So Harold Landry, so he's not that great of an edge rusher. I just don't think no one's going to take on his contract. And also Tennessee, General Manager Mike Reganzi talked about how him and then also Jeffrey Simmons are guys that you want to build your franchise around because not only are they good players, but they've been here, they've been paid here, so they're like a cornerstone of the foundation of your culture. So you don't want to get rid of that. And also the Titans desperately need an edge rusher. Harold Landry is their best one, and I mentioned he's not that good. And then you also have your second guy, Arden Key. Arden Key's not good either. He's not a starting level edge rusher in the NFL. He deserves it, or not doesn't deserve, excuse me. He needs to be in a third spot where he's in the rotation, and that's where he was when he was with Jacksonville and San Francisco, where he had his best years as a pro. So he needs to go back down there. Harold Landry, he's not going to go anywhere. I think he's going to end up taking a pay cut and have it converted into like a signing bonus or something. I don't think Harold Landry leaves. I don't think you're going to get good enough draft capital for him. And also, the Titans aren't paying anybody right now. I know they signed L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, Calvin Ridley, but those cap hits aren't going to really increase until after 2025. So they're not really paying anybody right now. Might as well take your medicine, keep a decent, solid player on your team, and flesh out that defensive line, which needs a lot of help, especially at edge rusher. Getting rid of Harold Landry would make that need even bigger than it already is. Number 4 on the recap that happened last week, Trey Smith and T. Higgins, probably the top 2 free agents to set to hit the market, have been franchise tagged as of one of them was on earlier in the middle of last week, and then one happened yesterday. T. Higgins, for anyone that was looking for a guard or wide receiver in free agency, well, this already hurts already not great free agency class. So Trey Smith, that makes sense that he's going to play in the franchise tag and bring him. They also traded away Joe Thuney, who we'll talk about, to Chicago, which makes that move make even more sense to me. And then T. Higgins getting franchise tagged. I expected this because the Bengals have said they want to keep Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins all together. So they're going to work to figure out how to get that done and get that success and make that successful. So here's to seeing what that happens there. And then the 5th piece of news that broke last Friday was that Deebo Samuel was traded to the Washington Commanders for a 5th round pick. Honestly, I don't know how much I like the move for Washington. I would rate it like a B- because I expected Washington to make a splash move in free agency to get a really good player. I just don't think Deebo Samuel was that guy. That's not to say that they're probably not going to do anything else, but Deebo Samuel. And everyone's like, oh, well, you got him for a 5th round pick. Well, that's the only thing you're going to get Deebo Samuel for because he's an average player now on a big-time contract. So you're not going to get him for anything high value because Deebo Samuel's not who he used to be anymore. And there's no doubt that he helps this offense, right, because of his versatility and he can still do good things. But at best, yeah, you're going to get a solid playmaker that's going to help this offense. At worst, you're going to get a guy that's constantly injured and can't produce on the field. When he was on the field last year for San Francisco, he was a nothing burger. He was a absolute nothing burger. He was good in the return game, which is fine, but you don't get paid the money that Deebo Samuel's getting paid to just be a returner. No, you're paid because you're supposed to be one of the top players on the offensive side of the ball, and Deebo Samuel, quite frankly, was not good last year in San Francisco. He was not. And being injured and the offensive issues on that team anyways, kind of held him down. But even then, he's simply not who he used to be in 2021 at less. Like, it's just not. And so the move, I like the move because you get a player that's good, but on the contract that he's on and the risks, I just don't know. There's a good case for it to work and for it not to work. But definitely the Commanders need to do a lot more at the receiver position if they want to continue improving that spot for Jaden Daniels. Now, with all the old news out of the way, let's talk about the real news. Starting with the Dallas Cowboys, they paid defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa, I think is how you pronounce that name, to a 4-year, $80 million contract. Honestly, at first I was like, what are the Cowboys doing? They need a defensive tackle, but he's their best defensive tackle but he's not like absolutely a stud or anything, but he's a very good player. It's just the run defense was just so bad in Dallas last year. It just that move just kind of makes people raise an eyebrow. Also, because he got paid before Micah Parsons did. So what's going on there? But I mean, $20 million a year, it's like middle of the league, so it's not bad. But I feel like this is a move that could have waited. I think you need to pay Micah Parsons first, and then you would have figured that out next. But at least you're putting your money towards a good player, I guess. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just, I don't think that's the move the Cowboys needed to make right now. That's just a little odd. The timing's just a little odd, but the move itself, not bad. You're paying a solid price for a good player. I think it's going to be worth it in the end, I'm hoping. But definitely, the Cowboys still need to draft another defensive tackle to give competition to Mozzie Smith and also add depth at that position because they were also injured last year. So that doesn't change anything from what they need to go in the draft. But at the same time, you do lock down a good player, so maybe he can continue to develop and get better. That would be the best case scenario for Dallas there. Speaking of contract extensions, Saquon Barkley, the running back for the Eagles, got a 2-year, $41 million extension. This ties down him in Philly for the next 5 years, coming off of a 2,000-yard season. Honestly, Saquon Barkley, you deserve every single penny. This move also makes him the highest paid running back in the NFL, resetting the market. So, perfect. This is what we needed. This is not just for Saquon, but for the NFL in general. I've talked about infinitely a number of times about how the running back position has really had a renaissance in 2024, and elite running backs have proven their worth in an NFL offense now. So, that helps. Like I said, it helps Saquon. It helps the rest of the NFL. The move, I appreciate it. Saquon deserves it. I just wonder if Saquon Barkley is going to play at a high level for the next 5 years. I'm not so sure. That's just historically speaking, it's just hard for someone to do that. But if there's anyone that can do it, it's Saquon, and I'm rooting for him to succeed. He deserves the money. He deserves to reset the market after the year that he had. Definitely a great extension on paper, as of right now, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up, edge rusher for the Cincinnati Bengals, Sam Hubbard, has retired after 7 years in the NFL. This was kind of a shocker. And Sam Hubbard's kind of been like that second tier backup, fringe starting type of edge rusher, defensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, he's been there 7 years. He's been there forever. Man, and 7 years is wild. I remember he was coming out of Ohio State. People liked him. Coming out, he could never develop into a true bona fide elite starter. But he's been a solid player for Cincinnati. So losing him does suck. It's unfortunate, but for Sam Hubbard, congratulations on a good career. He made some really good plays in Cincinnati, especially a couple of years ago in the wild card round, where he had like a 94-yard fumble return for a touchdown, probably the best play of his career. And he showed a lot of stuff as a rookie as well. Really good career. Congratulations to Sam Hubbard for a nice career. Happy for him. If he thinks that's the best move for him, I'm all for it. I support him. Go on, you got your money, and go have fun and enjoy your life. Congratulations to you, Sam Hubbard. Now we get into some cuts that teams have been making. So the first one, the Raiders released Garnder Minshew. This one makes sense. I don't know why they signed Garnder Minshew in the first place when it happened last March. It just was a dumb decision to me because you're just going to... Excuse me, talking. I lost my train of thought, but... Anyways, when I talked about the signing last year when he went to the Raiders, I talked about how the Raiders are constantly in purgatory, how they're never good enough to be a playoff team or never bad enough to get a top pick in the draft. And signing Garnder Minshew to me was like, okay, you're just going to stay in the middle because you're not going to be bad enough to get that top pick and you're not going to be good enough to make the playoffs. This move literally does nothing for the Raiders, and it did nothing for the Raiders. And, well, at least they have a closer to a top pick in the draft now, so maybe it worked out in a weird way for the Raiders, not for Garnder Minshew, but it makes sense to get rid of him. He wasn't the starter. He got benched, he came back and got benched for Aiden O'Connell, and just that entire situation at quarterback is just a mess for the Raiders. It's been like that ever since Derek Carr left. So they release him, get rid of him. I don't know why they ever signed him in the first place, but here's the hoping Garnder Minshew goes somewhere and continues to be successful. He is a good backup quarterback, so he will go somewhere and have an opportunity to help another team win football games. The next one, Tyler Lockett, is officially released from the Seattle Seahawks. This was announced about a month ago, a little less than a month ago. Made sense to me. Tyler Lockett's in his 30s. He's slowing down. But for Tyler Lockett, he's had a great career in Seattle. He's been there forever. No, he did not win a Super Bowl. He got there in 2015, the year before. Wow. Or year after they lost to the New England Patriots. That's pretty interesting. But either way, he enjoyed a nice 10-year career in Seattle, being a constant deep threat, a constant reliable receiver for Russell Wilson, then Geno Smith. So congratulations to Tyler Lockett for an amazing career. I don't know if he's going to retire. I'm saying that like he's going to retire. I don't think so. But he had a great time and had a lot of great memories in Seattle with the Seahawks. So it's unfortunate that he's gone, but the Seattle Seahawks are ready to move in a new direction. But Tyler Lockett had a great career in Seattle. So happy that we're happy that it happened. We're not going to cry because it's over. We're gonna cry and be happy because it happened, right? Moving on, and what's kind of surprising, at least to me, the Jaguars are going to be releasing wide receiver Christian Kirk. He was set to make $15 million this year. No money guaranteed on the last year of his contract. So cutting him will save $15 million, I believe. Right? That's how that works. Yeah, he saves $15 million for the Jaguars. This one, I don't know how much I like that move because the Jaguars don't really have a lot of good receivers. They have Brian Thomas Jr., but Gabe Davis is coming off of an injury. Parker Washington, how good can he really be? I don't know. I know that the money wasn't guaranteed, so saving up the money to go somewhere else makes sense for Jacksonville. And now Christian Kirk, I think if he'll go to a team and will be like at least a 500-yard guy. Like, I know he hasn't delivered. He's been hurt these past couple of years after having a career year in his first year in 2021 with Jacksonville. But I think he has still plenty left in the tank. I think if he goes to the right team, he'll still be a good contributor for them. For Jacksonville, I'm thinking they have a plan at wide receiver, but given it's Jacksonville, I don't know how much it's actually going to be. And also, they hired James Gladstone to be their next GM like 2 weeks before free agency was supposed to hit, and he's 35 years old. I really don't like the process Jacksonville is doing there, and quite frankly, I really don't expect Jacksonville to be any much better this year in 2025 compared to 2024. But that's a different conversation for another day once we get to predictions versus reality, talking about that team. Next up, we have a couple of trades the Bears have made. The biggest issue for the Bears has been their offensive line, and they've made two moves to help the offensive line. Number one, they're set to trade for Joe Thuney, the Chiefs' left guard, for a 2026 fourth-round pick, set to make $15 million. No guaranteed money there. It saves KC $16 million on the move. And considering for KC that they don't have a lot of money and they need to really revamp this roster, there's a lot of holes that they have. Here's a way to, you sacrifice one guy to be able to get more money to bring in new talent in. And also, Joe Thuney is 32 years old. He is still a very good, very, very good player, but that's not a guy I think you want to give an extra contract to who was on the last year of his deal. But for Chicago, this is a great move because now you have Bracken Jones at left tackle, Joe Thuney at left guard, and now you need center and right guard. So with Joe Thuney is a guy who's a proven player. He's a good player. And so that's going to help out their offensive line a good amount. And then they traded for Rams guard Jonah Jackson for a 2025 six-round pick, I'm pretty sure, or 2026, I can't remember. But he's 28. He's a former Pro Bowl with the Lions, and he signed a 3-year, $51 million deal with the Rams this offseason. But he struggled a lot. He's got injured in week 2, came back in week 10, could never really get back to his form, and got benched. And he only started 4 games in LA. So you're getting a guy that's kind of, I wouldn't say high risk, but like medium risk, medium reward. Like, I don't know if Jonah Jackson's going to be good, but I think like more than realistically, he could be like the 5th best offensive lineman on the team. I think if Jonah Jackson's your 5th best offensive lineman, I don't think that's the worst situation to be in. It's not as bad as what the Bears were last year or in 2024. So I would say on paper, sure, it's an upgrade. I don't know how much you're going to get out of him, but at least now, you solved the guard issue. At least you band-aided it for now. That's not to say that they still need to draft interior offensive line at some point in this draft, maybe at 1 or 2 spots to have young guys develop there, right, while these 2 guys start and play it out. And then you got to get yourself a center. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but I do appreciate that the Bears are making moves to get, I guess, more proven commodities to help build their offensive line and help make sure that in 2025, Caleb Williams has the most success he can possibly have. And then the last thing on the list, DK Metcalf has officially requested a trade from the Seattle Seahawks going back here. I wanted to save it for last because this is the biggest news so far in the NFL. DK Metcalf had a down year last year. Definitely some people, Seahawks fans, would tell you that he was not used properly. And you look at all the change that's been going on the offense. Clint Kubiak has been brought in to be the new OC. You look at all the stuff that's been happening with the Seattle Seahawks offense over these past couple of years. And while it's been good, there's been a lot of issues that have not been fixed. For DK, I don't know why you would request a trade unless there's some, I don't know why he would. I'm sure there's a reason that we don't know about. But for Seattle, you got to keep DK Metcalf at all costs. He's still a really good player. You have Jackson Smith-Njigba, but with cutting Tyler Lockett, you already have a massive hole at wide receiver. And you cannot trade DK Metcalf and leave the only player as JSN. You can't. At that point, you got to go receiver in the first round because you can't go into the year with JSN being your wide receiver one. Not that he's not worth it or not able to be, but he's a slot guy. You need a good outside receiver in order to win games in the NFL. And if you lose that in DK Metcalf, you got to go get one in round one. And it sucks because the offensive line needs a lot of help. That will just create a bigger hole and a bigger need that doesn't need to be there. That really does not need to be a big hole as it's going to be if DK Metcalf gets traded. So no, keep him. Do not get rid of him unless he truly wants out and doesn't want to be here. Okay, then do right by him and trade him and get some capital back. But if you can, you need to keep DK Metcalf at all costs. He's still a good player. You have a good offense around him for the most part. Maybe add a running back in the draft. But other than that, this offense can still perform. Just got to use him right. So it's unfortunate, but I'm hoping DK Metcalf stays. He needs to stay. I think it's best for him and for the Seattle Seahawks. So here's to hoping that happens, and we'll keep following that as the offseason continues to move forward, as free agency happens in a couple of days, and things are starting to heat up. But for now, that is going to do it for me today. Little episode here for the news and just catching you guys up. Just talk to you guys for a little bit and catch up with you. But if you guys enjoyed, you guys like the content, you guys like the channel, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me if you guys would do that. It would help me continue to grow my platform and spread my passion to more and more people. If you also enjoyed the video, make sure to like and or not like and subscribe. I told you that. Share the video on social media or by word of mouth. Getting everybody locked into the Locked On to the Shumake Take podcast is important because I come out with great content for you guys every single week. And also make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think some of these players are going to do with their new teams? What do you think some of these free agents that have been cut are going to go? Let me know your thoughts about what you think free agency is going to look like. With that being said, that will do it for me today, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed. It's good talking to you guys again more normally, and I will see you guys next time.